I'd like to call the Administration Committee of April 21st, 2015 to order. I will take the roll call. Alderman Nichols. Here. Alderman Taylor. Here. Alderman Krautkramer. Here. Alderman Langdon. Here. Alderman Kian. Here. Alderman Zielinski. Here. Alderman Rollins-Jump. Here. Alderman Benner. Our first item is to approve the minutes of the Administration Committee of February 16th, 2015. Do we have a motion? Alderman Nichols.
Thank you. I'll move to approve the Administration Committee minutes from February 16th, 2015.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the minute? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We have a communication from the CIVMIC policyholder disclosure notice of terrorism insurance coverage. Is there any discussion or questions on that? There's no other action needed on that. Okay, then we will go to the election of chairman. I will open the floor for nominations for chairman. Alderman Kian.
Thank you. I will nominate Alderman Nichols.
There's a motion and a second to nominate Alderman Nichols as chairman. Is there any other nomination? Is there any other nominations? Is there any other nominations? Seeing no other nominations, I will cast a unanimous ballot for Alderman Nichols for chairman, and you may take over.
Thank you, Clerk Galeazzi. The next item of business on the agenda is the election of the vice chairman. Are there any nominations for vice chairman?
Thank you. I'll make a nomination for Vice Chairman or Alderman Rollins-Jump.
We have the nomination of Alderman Rollins-Jump with a second. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Great. Seeing none, I'll cast a unanimous ballot for Alderman Rollins-Jump as vice chairman. Action item number 3 this evening is the post-employment retirement plan with Precision Retirement Group. And Attorney Captain, would you be willing to explain what this action item is in regards to?
I did prepare a memo which was in the packet, and I don't know if you noticed, but on the back of it there is a recommended motion, and I'm requesting authorization to amend the plan documents and agreements with Precision Retirement Group to include the represented employees, which are the that's the police union. As a result of the negotiations that the Common Council had with the police union and the new contract, this is a benefit that is available, and so then this is part of the process that we need to amend the plan documents, etc. And in addition to that, item number 2 there is confirm the requirement that all eligible city employees are subject to the distribution of accumulated sick leave benefits to the post-employment benefit plan administered by Precision Retirement Group. I was going through the paperwork and some of the minutes from previous meetings that occurred relative to when this benefit was first being offered. And I just want to make sure and ask for confirmation that it's a requirement that city, that there's a distribution, an automatic distribution of these funds. It cannot be, and I think I explained it in the memo, it's a tax consequence, so we want to make sure that we have all the proper language in the motion. So that's what I'm looking for.
Are there any questions regarding this for Attorney Captain? Attorney Captain, I have one question. You mentioned that this is as a result of the union negotiations, so affirming this won't be a surprise to anyone, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Are there any other discussion or questions? Seeing none, on the back of the memorandum, there is a requested motion, and I'm assuming this would be forwarded to the council? Yes. Okay. So the motion would begin with recommending that we forward to the council. Do we have a motion?
Thank you, Chairman. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to forward this to the council to authorize an amendment to the plan documents and agreements with Precision Retirement Group to include represented employees and confirm the requirement that all eligible city employees are subject to the distribution of accumulated sick leave benefits to the post-employment benefit plan administered by Precision Retirement Group.
Please, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote.
Motion carried on roll call, 8-0.
And the last item on this evening's agenda is a status report and timeline on the development agreement with Menasha Downtown Development LLC. This is a discussion item only. And Director Kyle?
So a timetable listing a schedule and milestones for this project was distributed together with sort of a term sheet, a framework for a development agreement with Menasha Downtown Development LLC. As you'll note, looking through this sort of proposed timetable, things are very compressed. We're looking for actions to be taken over the next several weeks that would culminate in the approval of a development agreement by May 4th, and then that would set in motion some events afterwards, primarily being the formation of TIF number 13 and a possible amendment of another TIF district to share increment, as well as the commencement of the TIF project plan development. So this is as aggressive as we can be and still meet our time requirements associated with the normal procedures of review and approval. We do have some special meetings put in place here in order to facilitate this, one being the administration committee meeting that is proposed to be scheduled for April 27th, and we would be interested in the availability of our council members for that special meeting. So if you could just indicate to the clerk whether you would be available for that. If you just, maybe Deb, could you just kind of go around and ask them if they are available?
Did you say you had a specific date in mind? Or?
The 27th, April 27th, that's next Monday.
Monday, okay. Is, I guess, is anybody not available, I guess is what we could ask. If anybody is not available on Monday, April 27th for a special, is it just going to be administration, or do you want it a council meeting?
No, it would be the administration.
Administration, okay.
And what time?
What time are we looking at?
It could be either 5 or 6, whatever seems to work better.
Would you like me to go around the horseshoe and kind of ask? Okay. Having Alderman Nichols?
Yes, at 6 o'clock.
You prefer 6, okay. Okay. Alderman Taylor? Yes, okay. Alderman Krautkramer?
Sure.
Okay, anytime, okay. Alderman Langdon?
Anytime.
Anytime, okay. Alderman Keehan? Anytime, okay. Alderman Zelinski?
6 o'clock, God willing.
Okay. Alderman Rollins Jump? Anytime, okay. Alderman Benner? 6, okay. Looks like it'll be 6 o'clock on Monday, the 27th.
Okay, thank you
So we'll
for
work
that.
on an agenda.
I'd just kind of like to touch on some of these terms that are outlined here. These have been, some of them have been referred to in either my discussion or that of Mr. Hogarty's earlier tonight. The developer, as is contemplated by this agreement, would be obliged to construct an 8-story building of at least 100,000 square feet with a value of $12 million, and then would be needing to carry out the events associated with that. They've already acquired the site, have arranged for the demolition of the structures, and they are seeking to be reimbursed for that cost in the amount of $1,750,000. They are to begin construction upon approval of the project. That would be essentially approval of the development agreement. That they would then begin proceeding more or less in anticipation of the approval of the TIF project plan, coming through the Plan Commission to the Common Council, and then ultimately to the Joint Review Board for final approval. The developer would be constructing a 300-stall parking ramp on property that is presently owned by the city. That construction would likewise begin this summer, and the building would be occupied within the year. The $4.8 million cost for that structure is something that's being sought to be paid out of TIF increment, and would be outside of the developer's costs that are strictly, as it's being proposed, associated with the construction of the office tower. They would own the parking structure, they would maintain it, and they would operate it. There would be an agreement in place which would allow use of the parking structure by the public during evenings, weekends, and holidays. And there may be other tweaks to this that we arrive at that would address in some fashion or other the parking demands of other entities, and some other details associated with that. After about an 8-year period, the parking structure would be sold to the city. And the reason for the parking structure being built and owned by the developer for these first 8 years is because that would give the city time to eliminate our debt associated with the steam plant. So over the next 8 years, we'll be meeting those obligations, and then once that's gone, the city would have the capacity. As I understand, we have the capacity now, but it really puts us in a tight spot with respect to borrowing. So our preference is the developer carrying those borrowing costs for the first 8 years. It's expected that the developer would relocate any utilities that are disturbed solely related to their construction of the project, and they would restore any of the public surface parking that is damaged during the course of construction. And associated with those criteria are a number of contingencies. We've talked about the rezoning earlier tonight. We've talked about the creation of a TIF district. This would be our tax incremental district number 13. And as was mentioned, we will need other resources to fund the development incentive necessary to secure the redevelopment. And again, those items are the 1.75 million for the site assembly and clearance costs and the parking structure. And then there are related public improvements which would involve the rehabilitation of the sidewalks in proximity to the office development site, creation of a sort of a safe walking path from the south side of Main Street to the north side of Main Street, which might involve some little traffic islands or other traffic calming facilities. The improvement of the walkway that exists now between Broad Street and Main Street with better lighting and better, safer looking and functioning sort of walkway between those two locations. In order to have the developer construct a building on the Broad Street lot, they would need to enter into a land lease with the city, and that is contemplated that that would be at essentially no cost to the developer for those lease payments. There would need to be temporary construction easements put in place to allow for construction equipment to be able to assemble the buildings. And then there is city investment in the project. It would be the developer incentive that I mentioned earlier. They're looking for us to transfer certain portions of the Marina Place parking lot for surface parking needs. There would be a land lease that I referred to for the parking structure, and then at the end of the term, where of those 8 years where we're expecting the developer would carry the cost, the city would need to go out and finance the purchase, essentially repurchase of the parking structure from the developer. We have in place today a development agreement with McClellan Downtown Development that essentially promised to them 120 stalls in the Broad Street lot in association with the construction of the office building across the street. That agreement remains in place, and it will need to be amended with that parking accommodated elsewhere, and we've been working on that. There will need to be other public improvements, including relocation of the dumpster enclosure that's currently present in the Broad Street lot. I mentioned the reconstruction of the crosswalk on Main Street. We may be able to remove the traffic signals due to enhanced vision corridor associated with the cutaway of that corner of the building and some other things. And I did mention the construction of that walkway link from Main Street to the parking structure. There's also some utilities that may need to be relocated on city-owned property, and there's also restoration of the street, curb, gutter, and sidewalk. So these are some basic items. We will be working with owner-developer in the next few days to memorialize these things in a much more specific way with additional criteria in the form of a formal development agreement. And that is what's being planned to be presented to the administration committee on next Monday. So, you know, our purpose here tonight isn't really to kind of, you know, settle on specific terms, but we wanted to make you aware of at least the basic parameters of this, of what's being contemplated. This has been, these basic terms have been proposed to us by the developer. We have, through our finance consultant, Ehlers, been looking at different cost scenarios about how we could possibly fund these things. As I mentioned, we have applied for a grant. We're looking at all available resources to enable this project to come to fruition.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Kyle. Any questions for Director Kyle at this point? Alderman Taylor?
Thank you, Chairman. Craig, what will the, for the 27th meeting, when will the packet be ready for that meeting?
Well, given that it's Tuesday evening, we've got a lot of ground to plow to get this put into a format. And we understand that you're going to need is a few days at a minimum beforehand. So our goal would be to get it in your hands sometime Friday. And, you know, I fully anticipate that, you know, we might not be able to, you know, come to complete understanding of that agreement on Monday. And what I may ask you to do is consider then forwarding the agreement to the council without a recommendation from the administration committee, so you could then continue your deliberations you know, at that succeeding council meeting, so that we don't have to push it back 2 weeks to have it come out of the admin committee. And my thinking on that is, I mean, you're all the same people, you just have a different hat on in those different environments. So again, I'm just throwing that out there as a possibility to keep this moving in the event that we are not able to kind of come to agreement on the terms on Monday.
I respect the fact that we're working on a tight timetable, but I don't want any heavy document given to us. We got this today, but we're not making decisions on it. But you know, some major piece of this puzzle, throw it on our desk up here and ask to make a decision that night on it. It's not fair to us or the taxpayers.
We are very sensitive to that, and
Thank
we
you.
will do our best to get this stuff to you as soon as it's available.
Appreciate that. Thanks.
Any other questions for Director Kyle? Seeing none. Thank you, Director Kyle, for that presentation, and we'll have a motion to adjourn. A motion and a second. All in favor? We are adjourned.